UFC Kansas City, man. Missouri, you got yourselves a stacked fight night card, man. And honestly, I'm happy for y'all because it's kind of an up and down time, the best and worst time right now to be a UFC fan. I feel like there's so much potential for the greatest matchups we could ever see, and the talent's deeper than it's ever been. There could be so much hype, but at the same time, we're not really seeing a lot of these matchups. There's people that want different opponents or more money. There's injuries or pullouts, and it's a shame, man. But at the end of the day, at the very least, the UFC is making crowded fight nights stacked again. Intriguing, fun fights, and I appreciate that. We got a good card here, all right, with a good main event, and we're just going to be talking about it, our full card predictions here. So just starting off with Timmy Cuamba versus Roberto Romero, all right? We got a bit of a jabroni versus jabroni matchup here, all right? We got a guy who's 0-1 in the UFC in Romero, and a guy who's 0-2, I believe, if we're not counting the Contender Series, in Timmy Cuamba. My prediction here is going to be Romero. I think that it's kind of hard to tell with these guys who don't really look too great or don't really have a lot of experience, but at the end of the day, Romero, we're basically going off of the Onama fight. He stepped in, I believe it was short notice, against David Onama at UFC 309, who's getting a ranked opportunity now against Chikadze, and a lot of people are fucking picking him. So, you know, that's the thing, you know what I mean? So it says a lot that Romero was able to go out there and take a round off of Onama, and Onama's dangerous, this guy's like marauder, and people are hyping him up crazy, and whether or not I believe that, we'll get to that later, but at the end of the day, for it to be a short notice debut and against a guy who is now getting a ranked opponent right after, like, it says a lot. So when you look at an 8-4 record, and you look at the guy who's 25, right? There's a lot of experience to be had here, but and Timmy Cuamba, he's coming off, like I said, 0-2 record in the UFC, and it's just both of these decisions that he came to losses to. Like, he didn't look great. It's just one of these talents where I feel like it's just kind of one fight away, I mean, from being cut. You could argue both these guys are. I mean, it's, you know, it's starting off the early prelims. We're not dealing with motherfucking high spectacles here, but at the end of the day, I'm going with Roberto Romero. I think he's going to be able to kind of put on a good pressure, put on a good volume, and I think he's going to have the power advantage here. I think he's going to land the right shots, be able to crack Cuamba, and I say he wins via a decision or a knockout here. So moving on up next, man, to Malcolm Wellmaker taking on Cameron Saaiman. I feel like people are notoriously talking about this fight. You can't go a second without saying Saaiman trained with Dricus du Plessis. Saaiman is training with Dricus du Plessis. It's the same thing with what's his fucking name? Big guy trains with Tom Aspinall, whatever the hell. Just lost Mick Parkin. All right, it's someone like that. All right, we haven't seen him in a year, or pretty much to the date, a year and a bit of change. So at the end of the day, it's a comeback for Saaiman, and that is a bit questionable. Like, is he going to be able to come back and really be as strong? But I'm going to be I mean, he's coming off of 2 losses, but regardless, I'm going to be going with Saaiman here. I'm not very confident in this pick, but at the end of the day, Wellmaker is a guy who, he has a lot of power. I could totally see him going out there and taking out the lights of Saaiman. And, you know, Saaiman's a guy who, he's been cracked, he's been finished, he's hittable, he's beatable. He was a pretty impressive prospect when he came in, but obviously you can't go against C-Rod if you're a prospect, man, all right? You know it's the goddamn murderer's row. For some reason, C-Rod, it just doesn't make sense. The fights he wins and he loses, but at the end of the day, he went out there and he did ultimately beat up Saaiman, and then after that, Talbot, I mean, really beat him up. I mean, there's a difference between the beating that C-Rod gave him, it's just a unanimous decision, okay? And then versus Talbot, it's like Talbot beat him up from the start of the fight to the end, like, was putting on crazy pressure, landed all the right shots. Saaiman got fucked up, and now people are questioning, how is this kid's chin? How's he gonna do against pressure fighters? How's he gonna do against a guy with a lot of power? And when you're going against Wellmaker, I see why a lot of people are going with him, okay? There's a reason why the betting odds are so close. There's a reason why Wellmaker is undefeated, you know what I mean? Has his fair share of finishes, and when you look at a guy like that, he's flashy, he's undefeated, you know what I mean? He's coming in here, he's got the gray silhouette picture or whatever, or of the Dana White Contender Series or whatever, and I think he's going to go out there and he's going to have full confidence to make a statement and get a knockout, but I think Saaiman is just going to be too much. I think Simon's going to be more well-rounded. I think we're going to see a lot of improvements he's made in the off time. I think his chin is going to be able to hang with Wellmaker's biggest shots he's going to throw in the early going, and then I think it's going to take a decision here. We're going to see a bit of improvements, you know what I mean? Like, both these guys are young, but Saaiman is literally 24, you know what I mean? So it's like the dude isn't even unk status yet. He's still got ways to go, so I'm going to go with him here, but it's dangerous waters when you consider just coming off of the last 2 losses and with the time off. So it's a dangerous pick, but at the end of the day, I'm going to go with Saaiman. So moving on up next, man, to Damone Blackshear taking on oh shit, bro. Here we go. I'm about to botch the hell out of this name. We got Alatengheli. We got Alatengheli, bro. Holy shit. I'm going to be going with Damone Blackshear, okay? He's a huge favorite, and I think for a good reason, man. He's got a pretty good win streak right now, and this is a guy who, honestly, is making a pretty good case. I mean, he's a young, hungry dude who's on a good, solid win streak right now, you know what I mean? And I think he's building up a pretty good reason to be called one of the better or one of the best kind of just unranked guys right now at bantamweight, regardless of being a prospect or not. Because Damone Blackshear, man, he's a guy who definitely has had had his fair share of losses already in the UFC, but you got to consider, like, the dude is young, and at the end of the day, like, his submission game is dangerous. I mean, yeah, his striking, it's alright, but I don't think it's anything crazy, especially in a division like bantamweight, who has a lot of talented strikers, whether you're ranked or unranked. Like, it's a division full of strikers, you know what I mean? Whether you're, it's crazy power, or valiant strikers, or dynamic knockouts, or whatever the fuck, but Blackshear is really making a name for himself based on these last couple of wins, and just because of the submission game, man, because the guy has good grappling, the guy has good wrestling. Like, at the end of the day, man, he's slick with it, you know? The thing is, like, he's not even really the type to go and shoot a crazy amount of takedowns or anything like that, but it's just, when he's in these scrambles and when he's in these exchanges and when he gets his opponents to the ground or whatever the hell, or they get him down there, it's dangerous waters for them, man. And when you're going with a guy like Alatengheli, I don't know how the fuck to say his name. When you have a guy like Alatengheli who is coming off of a win, okay, and don't get me wrong, like, solid performance, whatever the hell, but it's not he's facing the craziest opponent in the world. Like, this is a guy who's losing to guys like Casey Kenny, Chris Gutierrez, and that's a red flag when you have a young, hungry prospect like Blackshear. He's a minus like 500 favorite from what I'm seeing right now, and I feel like it's just, I see a submission win for him here, like maybe a decision, whatever the hell, but it seems like Blackshear has pretty good finishing ability, so I don't see this one going the distance. But at the end of the day, man, you want to talk about a decision, I mean, there's a lot of people that argue he beat Mario Batista, who just went out there and, you know, don't even get me fucking started on the Aldo thing, because it pisses me off beyond belief. Whatever the hell, it is what it is though at this point. Hey, it is what it is, brother, you know, we found out October 26th, so I think a lot of people, the fact that he made it that competitive against Batista, who's a solid prospect for the division, moving up the rankings right now, I think it says a lot. Some people, again, think that Blackshear won the damn fight, and I think that's fair. So I think he's just, momentum's on his side, he's dangerous on the ground, and his opponent, I just think, isn't going to have too much from here. So I'm going to be going with Blackshear here. Moving on up next, man, to Chris Gutierrez taking on Zhang Castaneda. This is a matchup for all fucking ages, man. I'm going to be going with Chris Gutierrez. This fight, I mean, I really couldn't give two shits about it. If I'm going to be honest here, Gutierrez is one of these guys who, he isn't putting on crazy performances. He doesn't have a crazy highlight reel. He's one of these guys who's kind of coasting around like an Apex main card, or is just coasting around the prelims and shit. And he's going in like, he'll win some and he'll lose some. And that's kind of what Gutierrez is, especially at this kind of phase right now in his career. It does kind of seem like yesterday he's getting main event spots against Song Yadong, but we are kind of a bit far from that right now. You know what I mean? He's facing Zhang Castaneda, who is a guy who, he has solid wins, but again, he has his fair share of losses. I don't know. Like, I think a lot of people are going to be going with Castaneda on this one, but ultimately, I'm going to be going with Gutierrez as my pick. He's a slight favorite, and it's not like these losses are crazy. Like, he's only really losing to Pedro Muniz, Song Yadong, shit like that. You know what I mean? Like, Ronnie Barcelos. These are guys who I don't think it's too crazy to lose them, but at the end of the day, like, he's not the craziest talent in the world, but the fact that he's able to only lose to guys who have, like, you know, it kind of means something if you're losing to guys like, you know, Pedro Muniz or Song Yadong, and we just saw Barcelos fraud check Peyton Talbot, so like that's something that kind of escalates him losing to him. So at the end of the day, like, he's able to kind of get these wins over kind of like these mid or lower ranked guys that are kind of unranked. So I feel like, I know it's kind of a fucking tongue twister talking about unranked guys that are unranked, whatever the hell, but I know that Gutierrez isn't gonna go out there and put on like some kind of crazy pressure. I don't think he's gonna be really kind of hunting for a knockout. Maybe he will be, maybe he wants to go out there and put on a statement, but you know, and we have seen him have his fair share of knockouts at the end of the day in the UFC, and that's solid. But and I would like to see that out of him. You know what I mean? He does have solid pop behind his shots, but I know that Gutierrez, especially from his recent performances and wins, like, he's totally fine. I feel like just kind of coasting to a decision here, so I feel like that could be the way. And don't get me wrong, Castaneda is a guy who is solid in his own right, solidly well-rounded, but at the end of the day, it's a battle of the jobbers, it's a battle of the jabronis. If you say it too many times in a mirror, the rock's gonna come out of goddamn self. So at the end of the day, not too much to be had here, but I'm gonna say Gutierrez by decision. Moving on up next now, man, and I've kind of been dreading talking about this one because, I mean, talking about it in quotes, I really don't have much to say. We have Evan Elder taking on Gage Young. I'm going to be going with Evan Elder, but for all the hardcores, I mean, just skip ahead a few seconds to the next fight, because, I mean, I feel like I watch a solid amount of the fights, all right? I mean, I wouldn't say I'm the most hardcore in the world, but at the end of the day, I feel like I relatively kind of know most of the fighters, but I genuinely just don't know who either of these guys are. I really haven't seen too many performances out of either of them. From what I'm seeing here, Evan Elder, you know, 2-2 in the UFC, so that's pretty solid. He has a win streak going right now, and he's taking on Gage Young, who hasn't fought in the UFC at all. He lost his Contender Series appearance. Apparently he fought on this season from 2024, and now he's getting a shot again in the UFC, so he must have looked solid or some shit. I don't fucking know, man. But then again, he was facing, it says here he's facing Killian Sakid, who I definitely do know. He's actually a pretty solid prospect for the division. I feel like he's going to represent I feel like, I forgot if Sakid's from Australia or New Zealand or whatever the fuck, but he's a solid prospect in his own right, so I don't think there's anything wrong with losing to him. So Gage Young, maybe he could win here, but I'm going to be going with the odds makers because I really don't know anything about this fighter. I really just don't know too much about these guys. So I'm sorry. I know I sound like a casual. It is what it is. I apologize, y'all. I'm just not going to try and even bullshit, y'all. You know what I mean? But moving on up next, man, to the featured prelim that we have here. We have Matt Schnell taking on Jimmy Flick. Now, I'm going to be going with Matt Schnell, but honestly, man, it's so hard to call a Matt Schnell fight. Like, when you have a guy who's one of the chinniest fighters in the UFC and you're at flyweight, it's crazy, man. And both these guys, like, this really is just kind of a wild kind of feature prelim to have. It really goes to show that this is a card where pretty stacked main card, you know what I mean? Really good. It has a good main event, but the prelims are just kind of here. You know what I mean? Like, it's just kind of building up the crowd or something like that, because Schnell and Flick are two guys who have basically considered retirement. I mean, Schnell already did retire, and, you know, Schnell's 35, Flick is 34. Flick is a guy who, you know, he's coming off a loss, and like I just said, he's already considered retirement really seriously, and he's 2-3 in the UFC, so more so on the losing side of things. And, you know, it's a winnable fight for Matt Schnell. They really kind of had to dig deep to find it, because Schnell is just, when you look at his record, bro, it's a lot of gray. It's a lot of losses, especially as of late. I mean, I know in the early goings in these UFC, and, you know, hey, people forget, man, that Sumo Darji fight, man, people forget it was a scrap. Schnell is a dog, he's a marauder. But at the end of the day, dude, when he gets to this certain level of opponent, I mean, anybody just really ranked, it seems like, or anybody with slight pop behind their shots for flyweight standards, like, he's getting finished, he's getting knocked out, or he's just getting beaten. And that's the thing about most of Schnell's losses, like, he's getting finished via knockout or submission, and it's not good to see, man. And the dude literally put down his gloves, if I'm not mistaken, a few months ago, the last time he fought. So that does concern me, but at the end of the day, he's facing Flick, who is a guy who was in the same boat, so it kind of cancels out. And I think skill for skill-wise, I like what I see out of Schnell more, and like I'm saying again, like, he's losing to a very specific kind of opponent. Like, when you're looking at him against a guy like Flick, though, like, I know the UFC really had to kind of dig through the barrel to find a winnable fight for Schnell, but I really do think that Schnell, I mean, dude, and the crazy thing is, if Schnell really does win this, they're just going to feed him another, like, 3 ranked opponents in a row and put him over. The WWE is scripted him like some Adam Rose type shit or some goddamn jabroni, but at the end of the day, Matt Schnell, I feel like, has the necessary skills to win. He is solid in his own right. You could argue the dude is solidly well-rounded, but he doesn't even make it that far in these damn fights because he's always just getting finished or has low fight IQ moments. And I just feel like Flick's a guy who doesn't have KO power, even for flyweight standards, man. Like, if anything, like, the way he would get Schnell out of there, I feel like, is via submission, which totally could be a possibility, don't get me wrong, but I think Schnell just has the skills to get it done. I think he's going to be able to hold his own on the ground and with the takedown defense, defensive grappling in general, to avoid any of Flick's kind of dangerous things he's going to throw at him down there, dangerous submission attempts, you know what I mean? No really big threats of ground and pound, I don't feel like, here. At the end of the day, Schnell's the guy who, he gets beat the fuck up, he gets caught, he gets beaten, but Flick is an opponent who isn't going to knock him out. Maybe he could finish him via submission, but I don't really see it. I don't see Flick putting on a crazy pace or pressure and, you know, beating him up via decision. Like, if you're taking out Schnell, I feel like it's going to be via devastating finish, so maybe I could see a submission, but I'm going to trust in Schnell's skill set. I'm going to trust in looking at the record and looking at all that gray. It could be easy to just kind of pick him to lose here, but Flick's got enough gray in his own right, so I'm going to be going with Matt Schnell to win here. It's a difficult pick. It's hard calling a Schnell fight, but it is what it is, man. Moving on up next now, man, to open up the main card. This scrap, it's a good one. It's a pretty good scrap, a great scrap. We love to see it. It was originally going to go down for the Saudi Arabia card in February, but got rebooked. I forgot what happened to it, but it's rebooked. It's going down now. It's Andre Muniz taking on Ikram Aliskerov, all right? My pick here is going to be Ikram Aliskerov, okay? He's a massive favorite. I think off the top of my head, I think he's the biggest betting favorite of the card. And I think, honestly, it's a bit overstretched. Like, I honestly can see a world where Andre Muniz really just take this one. I think that his ground game is legit. I think that he has some solid experience in the UFC. People were talking about this guy, all right? Like, it's a marauder. He's an absolute killer. He's taking out everybody left and right. You know what I mean? This guy is the motherfucking blown up Khabib, all right? He's the blow pop Khabib. But at the end of the day, ran into the big bad Brendan Allen, came up short there. But Brendan Allen is a solid talent, you know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with losing to Allen. But then, right after that, when you're getting knocked in, when you're getting fucked up, and you're getting finished via KO, TKO, whatever the fuck, it doesn't even matter, by Paul Craig, of all people, okay? Nothing wrong with Paul Craig as an opponent, but if he's taking you out in that regard, especially in this stage of his career, like within the past couple of years, like this is going down. It's a red flag for Muniz, all right? Hey, happy as fuck for the big bad Bull Craig, all right? But at the end of the day, man, I don't know. It says a lot about Muniz, but he took, some solid time off right after that. Not like right after that, because obviously he came up, later that year, and he had a pretty close fight against the Korean Turtle, or the Iron Turtle, whatever the fuck, I'm blanking on the name. But yeah, that was the end of 2023 around that time. And again, pretty close fight, but Andre Muniz got back in the win column, and now he hasn't fought all of 2024. It's almost like near the middle of 2025, and he's finally coming back. So you got to question with the guy who's not, he's old, but he's not that old. You know what I mean? He's like the unk at a cookout that's going to give the kids 12 and under a cigarette, all right? Whatever, live your life, all right? But Andre Muniz, he's like 35 years old, okay? I don't know why that was the fucking analogy I chose. But Andre Muniz, he's 35, so like relatively for the upper weight classes, kind of like middleweight and beyond, that's not really that old, you know what I mean? You're still kind of like right in the middle of your prime, and you don't know with these kinds of situations where these fighters kind of take off a year or two and they come back, and it's like, oh, how are they going to be? What's the improvements? But you want to know what I've been realizing? Fuck that. I keep, like, unless you're like a Volkanovski or some shit like that, most of the time, like these guys like Vettori or Turner, you think they're going to come back out of the hyperbolic time chamber and they're going to be these like much improved fighters, but at the end of the day, man, I just don't know if it's going to be enough to really, any improvements that he could have made in the striking, or you know what I mean, just in general with fight IQ, cardio, whatever kind of holes you wanted to pick out in Andre Muniz's game. Again, we know how legit the ground game is. It's obviously what kind of carried him through. His finishing ability is solid as well. He was able to rack up his fair share of submissions when he was on his good win streak, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, coming off of a split decision over the Iron Turtle, and then now you're going on year and a half off, taking on a hungry Aliskerov, who's going to be really trying to prove a point, because after people forget, man, people don't forget, the Robert Whittaker loss, man, it really, I don't want to say like, oh, it put a stain on Aliskerov, it really set him back. Obviously it was a step back, but like, you know what? The kid's got balls. Yeah, what was the question? Yeah, it wasn't his night in Abu Dhabi, alright? It was a rough, or Saudi Arabia, whatever the fuck, the oil, whatever the hell. You know what I mean? So, Ikram Aliskerov, I don't think it says anything about him or his skill set. Like, the dude took the fight, respect, it was on a week's notice. I know he already had a fight that was originally scheduled for like the week after, so it's not like he was really like coming off the couch. It's not like we're dealing with Tubby Volk or anything kind of crazy. Ikram was like in fighting shape, but respect is just kind of, I know it's crazy to like a huge step up and change of opponent and just like doing all the traveling and blah, blah, blah. I get it. I think that he would have lost that fight regardless if that was the Whittaker that was going, if that was the same Whittaker that fought Aliskerov, even if Aliskerov was his original opponent or he was fully prepped, full camp, whatever, I think Whittaker would have won. Maybe not by that vicious of a knockout, especially not that fast. It's Whittaker. We love Bobby Knuckles, but let's not ignore the fact that he has pitter-patter hands a lot of the time. You know what I mean? So, hey, he's a mean motherfucker. Puts on a heavy pace, but let's not act like Whittaker's a crazy finisher. So, the fact that he did that, it was a similar combination that Chimaev knocked out Aliskerov with as well. So, it's like, could have been looking at the footage and just saw the right thing. So, I don't know, man, but Aliskerov, even though he got knocked out and people are going to be like, oh, you don't know what the chin is going to be like for Aliskerov. Is his chin going to be able to hang in? I think so, man. All right, like it's not like even in the UFC we've seen a lot of footage out of him. He had like 2 or 3 pretty relatively quick finishes or knockouts, and it's just like coming off of that Whittaker loss, like definitely put him on the map. I think it's going to be a good experience for him, a good loss, like a good just kind of, like people, it's MMA, it's not boxing, so whatever the fuck, like fighters are going to lose. It happens, especially with specific circumstances like taking shit short notice, respect. So at the end of the day, like Ikram, coming from such a good Sambo background and just the fact that this guy has solid striking with good pop on his shots, it's good power. He knows how to put on a good frenzy. Like not the craziest like Valium striker, and he's not like the fastest guy in the world, but with how good his striking is, with how good just like kind of like his grappling in general, like the guy is built like a literal fridge, and it shows with his style. You know what I mean? Like it's hard to get him down in general. Like it's hard to just take him out of there. Like I know Whittaker did it, but that's Bobby fucking Knuckles. Okay, it's Robert Whittaker. He's ranked top 3 in the world or whatever at the time. You know what I mean? So and Whittaker's still in his prime technically. So Aliskerov is just a very well-rounded fighter. I think he has solid training partners behind him. All that. I think he has all the tools necessary to kind of keep the hype going as a prospect and really get back in the win column. I think he has all the tools to do it. The guy's really well-rounded, and honestly, how I think he gets it done. With considering the power and considering that if Andre Muniz Muniz is winning, it's going to be a very kind of smudge fest heavy kind of just decision. You know what I mean? 3-round decision. And if Aliskerov wins, I think he has multiple kind of options here. I think that he's defensively and offensively sound enough on the ground to give problems to a guy like Muniz for even as solid as he is down there, even with solid finishing ability as well. I don't think he's going to be submitting Aliskerov or really whooping him on the ground anytime soon. And I think Aliskerov could knock him out. I think Aliskerov could put on a heavy pace, maybe take him to deep waters. Maybe we could see a decision for Aliskerov first in the UFC. Who the hell knows? You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, I'm going to be going with Aliskerov regardless. I'm trusting the odds makers and I'm trusting in the talents of the prospect in Aliskerov. So moving on up next now, man, to Randy Brown taking on Nicolas Dalby. My pick here is going to be big bad Randy Brown. Selfishly, as a Brian Battle fan, I'm not going to lie. Like, I had money on Battle. I'm a big Brian Battle fan. So, like, I was rooting for Battle at 310 going against Brown. But at the end of the day, Listen. I'm happy he won. Selfishly as a fan and as a guy that had money on him, but I had Brown winning that fight 2-1. I thought that it was pretty disappointing performance. Honestly, you could argue from both. Like, at the end of the day, I know more so on Battle for sure. Especially people are claiming robbery, you know what I mean? And I don't blame them, but at the end of the day, man, I just feel like it was a very heavy clinch fest. It was a pretty slow-paced fight. There wasn't much action on the feet. Like, in general, it was slow, and on paper, it was just like one of the fights that it was driving the hardcores crazy. I think a lot of people were expecting good things out of it from either guy, and, oh, you can't deny them a ranked spot after that. But considering the fact that the fight played down as it is, I don't think clearly Brown isn't. He's got a fucking fight against Dalby, but clearly Brown or Battle isn't getting a ranked opportunity. So at the end of the day, I think Brown looked good in that fight still, but also not great. Like I said, it's kind of a bit on Battle and on Brown there. I mean, both guys kind of did what they could, considering whatever, but it was a slow-paced fight, and a lot of people thought Battle lost, and Brown looked solid, you know what I mean? He was piecing up Battle a bit, and he did look solid in the clinch, and just, in general, man, like, Brown is one of those kind of good, underrated fighters. Like, I feel like there's a reason he's a favorite here. Dalby is, the fact that he's 40 years old and has kind of come around, and he's still getting wins or whatever, like, all due respect, you know what I mean? Because I know he's coming off of the loss to Renat Fakhretdinov, but I don't think there's really anything wrong with there's anything wrong with losing to Fakhretdinov. He's a good prospect in his own right. I mean, all these prospects, man, it's so hard to even get in the rankings in this division, let alone just like, I mean, it's hard. The prospects are taking over, whether they're top 3 in the world, top 10, top 15, or just these guys like Randy Brown just kind of lingering outside of it, or Renat Fakhretdinov. Crazy stacked division, man. But I'm sorry, but at the end of the day, Dalby, for as good as he was looking on that win streak, you know, a bit of a decision merchant while he was on it, but you know what, like, the guy was racking up wins, and at the end of the day, he's a solid fighter. He's a good fighter, you know what I mean? But considering the fact that, you know, he's coming off of the loss, and considering that, I know Brown is as well, but I think he's going to be hungry to kind of get back in the win column here, and just kind of, I think, considering that he's going to be the younger fighter, I feel like the quicker fighter, I feel like I'm more impressed by Randy Brown's performances and what he has in his skill set. I think that overall he's going to be able to take out Dalby. I'm going to say via some kind of decision here, you know what I mean? Like, maybe Brown can find all the right shots and piece him up, and maybe get him out of there via some kind of finish, TKO, whatever the fuck. But if I was a bet man, I'd probably say Brown by decision. That's what I'm going to be feeling here. Dalby's good. It's impressive as fuck that he's 40 years old. He's still racking up wins, and you know what I mean? Well-rounded in his own right, and I don't think there's anything wrong with losing or not, man. But Randy Brown's going to be looking to put in a statement. I think he gets it done. So moving on up next now, man, to a fight that I'm honestly pretty excited for. When this got announced a couple months ago, I actually was like, all right, you know what? They're kind of cooking here. This is kind of one of those sneaky good matchups, man. It's Michel Pereira versus Abus Magomedov, and especially the fact this is in front of a crowd. I love it. So Michel Pereira versus Magomedov here. I'm going to be going with Abus Magomedov. Now, I know there's a lot of questions with that. I know there's a lot of bullshit with an Abus Magomedov pick, but at the end of the day, I mean, look at me. I'm getting all out of breath just like he is, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, I mean, speaking of the cardio of Magomedov, that's a big kind of thing that a lot of people are bringing up against Magomedov. Like, the guy doesn't have any cardio. He was gassing out against Strickland. He's a walking punt. He's a sandbag in there. He's just beating the hell up. And at the end of the day, like, when you look at the grand scheme of Magomedov's career in the UFC, besides just that one Strickland performance, which granted, he did gas out. He did kind of light a fury in the first round. He gassed the hell out. It was the UFC kind of ranking him into a push spot. Just, here's the fucking thing, you guys. I'm not going to lose. I'm going to go and defend my spot into the Apex Hall of Fame. I'm whooping everybody. You know what I mean? It's just, so Sean Strickland went out there and KO'd of them all things. And Strickland's not a big finisher. Granted, fantastic fighter. But at the end of the day, man, like, it's kind of crazy to get finished by Strickland. You know what I mean? And right after that, he lost to Baralho. Kyle Michel Barajo by decision. And these are guys who it's like Barajo is paving the way for the fighting nerds. He's a great talent, very well-rounded. Nothing wrong with losing to him. He's on a great win streak, Barajo is. And Sean Strickland won the championship right after he beat Magomedov. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that. He looked good against Warlley Alves, got back in the win column, earlier sometime last year. And then the win over Bruno Ferreira is what really stands out to me. That's something that really just showed that Magomedov, making it to the distance and getting a win over Alves was solid, especially considering how he kind of mixed in the takedowns and all that shit. But at the end of the day, it wasn't like a fantastic win or anything like that. It wasn't like a crazy good fight to watch or anything like that. So it was just kind of a win for Magomedov. But so whatever. But the Bruno Ferreira performance, the win at UFC 308 for him, that's something that really kind of just makes me inclined to pick Magomedov here. And I'm going to. I already fucking said that, I think. But yeah, I just think that Bruno Ferreira, the fact that it was a pretty solidly paced fight. It wasn't just kind of like, you could argue the fight against Alves was just a bit of a, just a grapple heavy performance fully for Magomedov there. I mean, it is what it is, but for Ferreira, that's a guy who, he knows how to get his fair share of finishes. He's explosive in there, and I think that he was really it was a good paced fight. It was a good kind of back and forth, and then in the third round of all things, for Magomedov to take him out of there via finish, it was a great win for him, and I think that he's honestly kind of building his stock back up. I think that considering that performances and considering the guys that he is losing to, I do think that it gives me confidence to pick a Magomedov here. I mean, look at the guys that Pereira, look at just the tear that Michel Pereira was going on before he fought Fluffy Hernandez. Shout out Fluffy Hernandez, by the way. Absolutely fucking whooped Pereira. But I think that it's just, when you're looking at it, it was a great win streak. It was explosive, you know what I mean? A couple decisions here and there, but it was a lot of just performance bonuses. It was a lot of just flashy finishes, you know what I mean? He's doing fucking flips and dips, and he's going all over, and he's just doing push-ups on you, and he's knocking you out, and I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. Michel Pereira was just racking up a great win streak, and he was getting great finishes. But I will say one thing, you gotta question kind of the level of competition, and that's a real thing when you kind of get to it's easy to kind of take out people left and right when you're kind of on the can side of things, when you're crushing cans. But when you're kind of going up and you get a step up in competition, I mean, going from Iho Pretoria going straight to Fluffy Hernandez, you know what I mean? I know rankings wise it wasn't a crazy difference, but it should be, because Fluffy Hernandez is good. He's dangerous. In my opinion, he's the most dangerous prospect at middleweight right now. I don't even know if you could really call him a prospect anymore since he beat Allen, but he went out there and he whooped Pereira right after that great win streak. And I think that now he's taken a step back in competition at Magomedov. I still think Magomedov is going to be a tough test for him. Obviously, I mean, I'm picking the dude to win, but I think Abus Magomedov is above the guys that I think Pereira was going out there and whooping, like Iho Pretoria, like Mikhail Olasejchik, you know what I mean? Like an Andrei Prochowski, like guys like that. I think Magomedov has been making improvements in the cardio. I think he's just becoming more and more well-rounded. I think he's a guy who, he's got solid finishing ability, and I think on the ground, we could see it here, man. So I'm going to be going with Magomedov here, maybe by, I say decision or submission, man. You know what I mean? That's what I'm going to be going with here. Michel Pereira just did not look good past that first round against Fluffy Hernandez. And I mean, this is literally a battle for who can avoid cardiac arrest here. I mean, Pereira with the gas tank allegations, you know what I mean? He looked awful from rounds 2, 3, and 4, and then eventually 5 going against Fluffy. And then Magomedov is defeating the allegations. His cardio has been improving, and I just think something as simple as that, man. I mean, it's not as simple as that. The cardio can literally dictate the entire fight. But I'm just saying, I really do think that's going to be the difference maker here. I think that Pereira is going to be very dangerous and explosive in that first round, going to be really looking for a finish. But I don't think he's going to be able to get it. And I think Magomedov has a good enough chin, good enough experience, and like I said, just improving cardio to where he's going to be able to hang with Pereira's best shots, in my opinion. I think his chin's going to hang, and he's going to carry on. I think he's going to take over the second and the third round. Going to implement a lot of takedowns. Rack up control time. Maybe we'll see some nasty ground and pound. Maybe we'll see a submission. Who the hell knows? But I'm going to be going with Abus Magomedov. I like what he's been seeing from him. I like what I've been seeing from him. Pereira's going to be dangerous as all hell, especially in that first round. Maybe his cardio's improved. We don't know. But at the end of the day, let's literally hope somebody doesn't literally fade away in the goddamn octagon from cardiac arrest for this one. All right. I'm going to be going with Abus Magomedov by decision. Or submission. Whatever. One of the two. Moving on. Up next now, man, to Giga Chikadze versus David Onama. This is another kind of sneaky good matchup we got here. I know I was rocking with the underdog in Magomedov in the last one. I'm going to be going with another one, okay? I'm going to go with Giga Chikadze here to beat David Onama. Now, I'm not as confident in this one in terms of an underdog pick, but I'm still I just don't think Onama is that crazy of a prospect, especially relatively at featherweight. I think there's more impressive prospects than him, and this just kind of seemed like one of those random shot in the rankings, you know what I mean? Like, I think there was kind of other guys you can give it to, but whatever. Like, I think Onama is still on a good win streak. He still has a solid UFC record. He's coming off a good win at 309. I'm pretty sure that's the last time he did fight. So at the end of the day, Onama, he's good, 13-2 record overall, you know what I mean? Like, solid UFC record and experience, and I just think he is a good prospect, you know what I mean? He's a good volume striker. He knows how to put on a good pace, you know what I mean? I think Onama's going to want to keep this fight in the feet. I mean, don't get me wrong, like, he's not awful on the ground, but I do think he's just going to want to keep this fight in the feet. Same for Giga, I think, of course. I mean, Giga is just naturally going to, he's a kickboxer. I think Giga's going to be in the same position. I think both these guys are want to keep this fight in the feet. I think it's going to be kind of a striking battle here. A pretty good pace one at that. I think Giga knows how to hang a pretty good pace. Yeah, he can gas out, but I think Onama, obviously, he can hold a good pace as well. Both of them probably are around the same in terms of like finishing ability, I think. But at the end of the day, I mean, going a little bit back to Onama, I think that when you're looking at him losing to Nate Landwehr, and when you're looking at him losing to who did he lose to in his debut? I think it was Mason Jones, okay? When you're looking at shit like that, it's just, yeah, he's on a good win streak right now. And like I said, like, yeah, he is skilled. He's got good striking, solid pop behind his shots. He's got a good chin behind him, you know what I mean? Like, Onama is skilled. But I just think that even Giga Chikadze, even though he's getting up there in age, and even though Chikadze, he's hittable, he's beatable, he's not the fastest, he's not the most powerful. I think that he is a good kickboxer. I think that he can beat a lot of guys outside the rankings, or maybe at the very bottom of the rankings. But I don't think Chikadze is anything crazy. But I do think that he's going to be like somewhere that's above like a Nate Lamb or a Mason Jones level of opponent. I think it's going to be a real full-fledged kind of test here for Onama. We're going to have to see if both these guys' chins can be able to hold on, because I think Chikadze was able to kind of bring forward a pretty good pace against Arnold Allen. I know he kind of died out in that fight, but the first round he was looking good, and even in the second, like, he had his own, I believe, off the top of my head. Allen versus Chikadze was a good fight. It was an entertaining scrap. I mean, especially coming off of the previous performance from Chikadze over Caceres. Because listen, like, the fight against Allen was just, it was a good back and forth scrap. Like, ultimately, like, yeah, Chikadze did get pieced up and he did lose the fight. I think Allen is just kind of the superior and more well-rounded fighter. I just think Allen is just, he's that good. I think he is that kind of top 7 level. But the win over Caceres, it's just like, yeah, I got Chikadze back in the win column, but it was pretty underwhelming. It wasn't anything great. Even though Chikadze, I don't think he's kind of like on the level of where he was when he was just kind of had a good win streak going a few years ago, and I don't think he beats really, I mean, I'd have to pull up the rankings in front of me, but off the top of my head, I don't see him beating a lot of guys in that top 10, but I do think that David Onama is somebody who, he's hittable, he's beatable. I think this is going to be a fight, like I was saying earlier, this is going to play out on the feet. I think it's just going to be both guys kind of striking here. I think that's going to be where they're most comfortable. Onama's going to bring forward a heavy pace, but I think Chikadze is going to be ready for it. Like, looking against Allen, even though he lost, like, I think if he's able to bring that pace, I think, or hold his own, or just kind of last a little bit longer with the gas tank, or just like, who knows? I mean, just really kind of outland him here, put on more volume and land the bigger shots. I think Chikadze is going to get it done, even though he is kind of the older fighter here. He's still 36. It's not like he's in the 40+ club, you know what I mean? So I think Chikadze, it's a winnable fight for him. Don't get me wrong, Onama can get it done for sure. There's a reason he's the favorite, but I'm going to be going with Chikadze here. I could see Chikadze getting it done, man. I'm going to say decision. I say a decision here for Chikadze. So I think it'll be a good scrap, though. Pretty good pace back and forth. Moving on up next now, man, to the co-main event of the evening, the butchering, the literal execution, as a lot of people are saying, all right? Anthony Smith taking on Zhang Minyang. Now, don't get me wrong, there's part of me that honestly is like, I could really see Smith getting it done, but I just don't think it's going to be that kind of upset, man. I'm going with Zhang Minyang. I think he's going to get it done via first or second round KO, and I know that's just kind of one of those easy picks. It's just like, oh, Zhang Minyang, this guy's a marauder. He's going to go out there. He's going to completely smoke him. This guy's going to be the Chinese prospect, all right? But it's just like, whatever the hell, you know what I mean? Zhang Minyang, he's a guy who, he's powerful, he's good, he's scary looking, he looks like one of the evil fucking exes out of like a Scott Pilgrim movie or some shit, but at the end of the day, I think that Zhang Minyang's gonna be beatable. I really do. Like, I think he's gonna be able to knock out Smith. I think he's gonna be able to beat a solid amount of guys in the rankings, especially looking at just kind of the state of the division right now. I think it really needs an upcoming prospect, someone that's powerful and explosive like Zhang Minyang, because Oberg, in terms of being a prospect, like, yeah, he gets his fair share of finishes, but he's been kind of lackluster as of late, and I get it. You're facing elite competition. I get it. You can't just go out there and flatline them, all right? I get it. But I'm just saying, Zhang Minyang is a bit of something just new, something fresh. When you look at the record, what does he fucking got here? He's got an 18-6 record, okay? So that's a fair amount of losses, especially when you're kind of relatively new to the UFC. It's not even a lot of UFC experience yet, but I think that this is a guy who, he's young, he's going to be hungry here. I mean, at China, besides like Zhang Weili, you know what I mean? And you got like Song Yudong, like China just despite the massive population, you think they'd have a lot more kind of upper echelon fighters, but they really don't. I think Zhang Minyang could be that next entry to the Song Yadong and Zhang Weili, whatever the fuck, the Zhang Weili club, you know what I mean? Smith is a guy who can totally pull it upset. His submissions are kind of sneaky dangerous. He has so much experience. It's like 60 plus pro fights or something like that. It's 50 plus pro fights, whatever. He's nearing 60, but this is Smith's retirement fight. If this fight was going to go down 2 years ago, I'd be probably picking Smith. Even if he was going to be an underdog, maybe I could smell something. I mean, I don't know. I picked Vitor Petrino to beat Smith, so maybe I'm being a hypocrite here. Maybe I'm just talking on my ass, but I could see Smith, this stylistically could be a favorable matchup for him. I mean, Zhang Minyang, like I said, he's been defeated. He has 6 losses, and he doesn't have too many fights in the UFC. And again, the guy's impressive, crazy knockout power. The guy's an absolute tank, and Smith does have a pretty good chin. Like, yeah, he's finishable. He has been finished before. He's been beaten before. God knows it. I mean, with the 20 plus losses, but at the end of the day, we've seen some fraud checks coming from Smith. We've seen Smith get wins he's not supposed to get on paper. All right, WWE, you couldn't have a guy like Anthony Smith there. He'd be fucking up the script all day. So Anthony Smith's a guy who, I mean, he's got a lot of experience, but I just think that even with the sneaky dangerous submissions, even with the solid striking, I just don't think at this stage in the game he's going to be looking to get some kind of crazy finisher. I just don't see it here, man. I just feel like it seems kind of forced in my head here. Like, maybe he'll get it done, but just with the state of him and just kind of hearing him talk about things and just like the really rough loss to Reyes mentally and just on the record, you know what I mean, at UFC 310, I'm not liking the state of Smith. It's a sad retirement. I mean, maybe in a way, if Zhang Minyang wasn't in my parlay, I kind of hope for Anthony Smith to get a win here, but nice kind of retirement here. And you know what, fuck it, I do. But at the end of the day, I think Zhang Minyang is just, his power is going to be too much. He's going to be too explosive, and I think he's going to take the head off of Anthony Smith here, man. So I'm going with Zhang Minyang. So moving on to the last one we got here, man. Ian Machado, Garry stepping up to the plate, taking on Carlos Prates. He's a slight favorite on my screen I see right now. Man, I'm going to be going with Ian Garry, all right? Fuck this shit. I picked him to beat, who was it? It was Michael Venom Page at UFC 303, and a bunch of people were talking shit about that one. I mean, I thought that he honestly had a pretty good shot at beating Shavkat at 310, and people thought that was crazy. I wasn't picking him against Shavkat, but it wasn't as surprising to me that he was able to take off 2 rounds off of Shavkat. Like, I'm someone who's been saying, you know what I mean, despite, I know this gets a lot of shit, all right, I'm sorry, but I think Shavkat is a bit overrated, and I've been saying this for a while, you know what I mean? I think that the guy's really good. He deserves to be in the top 3. He has a chance of becoming the champ for sure, but I just think that, like, people were talking about him like he was absolutely, like, Garry doesn't have a shot, like, the 100% finish ability, it's gonna go and continue, like, Gary's a little bitch, he just is a little cuck on the side. People forget that the dude can fight. Like, they do the same thing with the Paddy Pimblets and all this shit. Like, just because you don't like someone, they just yap a bit too much, or I'm not scared of anyone, even though it sounds dumb, all right? You gotta respect it, and you gotta realize that, like, these dudes can scrap. The Pimblets and the Garys of the world, they can fight, and I think that this is a winnable fight for Ian Garry here. Now, it's scary because Prates can totally take his fucking lights out. There's a reason why so many people are picking him. There's a reason why the 4 horsemen of the fighting nerds are like 20-0 in the UFC. They're undefeated, riding a bunch of hype. There's a reason like why so many people are like, the betting odds are close. People are picking Prates, and I could totally see him knocking out Ian Garry. But honestly, man, like, the wins that Prates has been getting, you know what I mean? He's got like 4 or 5 fight win streak in the UFC, all via knockout, all devastating fashion as well. So like, Prates is a guy who is gaining a lot of hype. He's one of the more beloved of the fighting nerds, you know what I mean? Like, and I get why. Like, the guy, he knows how to fucking party outside the cage. He's got an exciting fighting style. He has a high finish rate. He knows how to kind of go out there and take people's lights out. He's got a good Muay Thai background, great fight camp behind him who gains a lot of hype. And I just think that the guy, like, he's smoking all his cigarettes, people like to laugh about, like, oh, that's the smoking cigarette guy, Carlos Prates. He knows how to have a good time, but he'll go and knock your lights out, and he'll put on his little glasses after. Like, people know what they're getting into with Prates, and I'm a fan of the guy. Like, I like the dude. I would say that I'm a lot more, like, on that side of things than, like, being a fan of Ian Garry, but at the end of the day, I think this is a matchup where, yeah, I could see Prates knocking him out, but it's a winnable fight here for Garry. I think that Garry has a good chin, an underrated chin. Like, yeah, he has gotten rocked before, and he is very hittable. I think that when he's gotten facing, like, more elite competition, once he got past the Neil Magny test, and he started facing, like, the Jeff Neals, you know what I mean, and, like, the dangerous strikers and MVPs, and he's facing guys like Shavkat, we really have seen him step off of the gas, you know what I mean? Like, his gas tank is good. I don't mean it like a cardio issue. I just think he's become a lot less of a volume striker, you know what I mean? Like, he's a lot more open to taking the fight to the ground, getting the fight into the clinch, kind of maintaining the distance, avoiding getting into the pocket, and just really picking and choosing all the right shots. It seems like that's what Garry just kind of is right now. Like, he doesn't mind putting on a boring fight. He doesn't mind like really keeping the distance. He doesn't feel like he has to be forced to get it finished. I feel like he definitely is looking for it. The dude almost submitted Shavkat and had his back for a good portion of a round at UFC 310. And that's a guy who, it's like, Shavkat, like I said, I think he's a bit overrated, but I also think he's very elite. I know that doesn't really make too much sense, but it's like the guy's well-rounded. For Garry to be able to do that when he's working with these guys like Charles Oliveira and that whole team, and he's like really been sharpening his craft in the clinch, really been sharpening his takedown defense, his defensive grappling, and most importantly here, his offensive grappling. Like, I think that it's just his chin, Ian Garry's chin, I think is going to be able to take Prates' best shots. I mean, maybe not his best shots, but I just don't think Prates is going to be able to connect that perfect left hand that he's looking for. I think that if Prates is able to kind of control the pace of the fight, you know, put forward all the pressure, really just kind of force Garry into like dangerous exchanges and really force him in the pocket, I think that Prates could take his lights out anywhere from round 1 through 5. Even he might have awful cardio. We don't know. We really haven't seen much of him past that first or second round. And with all the cigarette smoking, yeah, it's fun now, but I could see that biting his ass, man. Like, it is like, you know, a very elite level he's at right now. He's taking on number 7 in the world, Ian Garry, who is 15-1 and has a lot of just good UFC experience. Like, I would say a lot of Ian Garry, I mean, we know this. What is Prates' best win? Like Neil Magny, you know what I mean? Like, Ian Garry already has like a sizable amount of experience since the Neil Magny fight, and Prates kind of just passed that test. Both of them are pretty similar in reach, pretty similar in height, so I don't think any guy is going to have like too crazy an advantage over the other one here in any of those regards. Like, I don't think anyone is going to be like, oh, Prates is going to be so much faster or so much taller, or Garry is just, that you could say the same for him. I don't think it's going to be anything like that. I think the things that are going to be the biggest difference makers in this fight, and what's really going to separate the winner and the loser here, is whatever happens in the grappling exchanges, and whatever is going to be going down with the cardio. How is the chin of Ian Garry? It's shit like that. It's these random ass fucking intangibles, man, but it really does matter here. Like, if Garry's chin can be able to hang against Prates' biggest shots, or at least if Prates lands a solid amount of shots, but even if it's not his best one, if Garry's doing a pretty good job at, you know, being good defensively in the striking, which he is, like, he's a pretty sound defensive striker, you know what I mean? Garry, like I said, like, he's stepping off the Valium. I think he needs to do that in this fight to get a decision win here. I think kind of mixing it up in the clinch. I want to say this, like, if Garry wins, it's going to be a bit of a smudge fest. It's going to be a boring win, but if he's able to kind of go and force the fight into the clinch, take Prates' biggest shots, or maintain the distance that he avoids all the hardest shots, and it's just like, maybe we even see a submission from Garry. Like, maybe Garry, I know that Neil Magny wasn't able to take down Prates. There was a point where Prates was on top, you know what I mean? He didn't do anything with it, but still, like, that's a real thing. But if Garry, I could see him being able to take down Prates. I could see Garry, with the improvements he's been making and training with Oliveira, I could see him really just being just a better full-fledged grappler than Magny at this point in his career, and I could see him just going out there, maybe getting around 4 or 5 submissions, someone just later in the fight. Maybe Prates will gas out. We really don't know, but at the end of the day, we know how Prates is going to win here if he does, and we know his keys to victory. Like, Prates, you know damn well he's not getting no submission or shooting takedowns. The odds of him winning via decision are pretty low, because Garry has 5-round experience already against more elite competition, and the guy has good cardio. He's hard to hit, so I think that if Prates is going to win, it's going to be a knockout, probably an early one, but knowing his power, it's like sneaky fucking power, man. I could see him really knocking out Garry in like that 5th round, you know what I mean? So, and especially with the hype of the fighting nerds, they're 20-0, and you just got to question, like, who's going to be the first guy to beat these guys? Like, now Barajo is talking about fighting Imavov and Chimaev, and now Prates is entering the top 7 range. So these guys, they're getting into some really dangerous matchups. Like, now Gene Silva's going to get a top 10 guy next. So yeah, the 20-0 streak they're developing, the Fighting Nerds, is really impressive. I'm a big fan of their camp. A lot of people are. I love the Full Violence Club. I love all this shit. Like, we love the Fighting Nerds. I wish great things for them, all right? I hope they all become champ, but at the end of the day, they're going to lose someday. And I think it's going to be someday soon, especially now they're playing these dangerous waters against upper competition. And I know that Garry is stepping in, I mean, not short notice, but relatively short notice here. Like, even regardless of that, I think that Garry is elite enough competition and somebody good enough and well-rounded enough, and with enough just good shit I've seen out of him in the UFC, to where I feel like I'm not the most confident picking him, but I'm confident picking Ian Garry to get a win here via a late submission or decision. I think he's going to mix it up in the clinch. I think I could see a couple of takedowns here. I don't think he'll be successful with all of them, but I could see him shooting, especially in in the later rounds. I just think he needs to survive that storm that Prates is going to bring. Prates is good at, kind of just, we saw improved takedown defense in the Magny fight, you know what I mean? Like, we're going to have to see how that kind of plays out, but just, Prates is a really good pressure fighter. He's good at pushing you up against the back of the fence and just kind of like explode on you and just landing the combinations that are needed to take you out. The dude has a lot of power, but he also has the power, and he doesn't even need combinations. It's just one left hook, one swing, and the guy just has like that just raw and knockout ability that you really aren't seeing out of a guy like Garry nowadays, you know what I mean? But again, you don't know in difference of competition or whatever the hell, but I mean, the only similar opponent I really think they've had is Neil Magny. I mean, they both fucked him up in different regards, so still, whatever the hell. But I think looking at this, all things considered here, Prates is going to be very dangerous. I could totally see him taking his lights out, but I'm going to be going with Garry, man. I think that he has the right experience. I think his chin's in the right place. I think this is a winnable fight for him. I think he's comfortable taking this one. And respect to him for it. Like, this really did, I mean, this card is already pretty good. Like, I don't think it, like, absolutely, like, saved the card, man. But it did save the card. It really did. So, respect to Garry. Like, he really is proving that he's one of those guys that is going to take on all contenders. I could sit here and fucking laugh like, I'm not scared of anyone and do all that bullshit. But at the end of the day, he's really not. Like, the dude will take on anybody. Unranked, ranked, top 1, number like 13 or someone like Carlos Prates. Like, it doesn't matter. And at the end of the day, I'm not like a genuine Garry fan, but I respect the hell out of that. And I wish that there were more fighters in the UFC that had that kind of attitude. You know what I mean? So I didn't expect to put a fucking interim BMF strap on Garry of all people, but we might have to because he's taking these fights and I gotta respect him, and he's taking on all comers. I love to see it. And he's, it's this guy who's young and is risking his top 10 spot. So all the more reason for him not to take these fights, especially against a guy who's dangerous and kind of relatively unproven a bit like Prates, but he's doing it anyway. So respect to both these guys, but Prates is going to be dangerous for him. But I'm going to be trusting in Garry's chin and experience in general here. And just like, I just think stylistically, Prates is solid in the clinch, improving takedown defense, and has crazy power, but we're going to have to, there's just a lot of questions here, man. And maybe it'd be different if it was a 3-rounder, but the fact that it's a full-fledged main event, it's a 5-rounder, that really sells it for me. So I'm going to be going with Machado Garry here, man. So that's going to be it for my kind of full card predictions here, but just kind of getting into now the blanks of the card here. So we go over the underdog of the card, the locks of the card, the wild card of the card, and my rating for the card. All of them are pretty self-explanatory, but we will get into each of them. So just starting off here with the underdog of the card here. Which one of my underdog picks do I think is the best one? I did kind of pick a couple here, not too many, but I did pick a couple. Honestly, man, I'm going to be going with Magomedov. Like, I really feel like, I mean, these betting odds, they're getting closer and closer down, at least that I've been noticing over the past few days. But Magomedov, man, I really do think he can get it done. Like, I just like the improvements I've been seeing out of him. I'm trusting in Magomedov here, and if I wasn't looking at the betting odds anyways, I would have thought Magomedov is going to win. So I'm going to trust in it, and I think Magomedov is going to take this one. He's going to be my underdog of the card. I'm fairly confident in it, so we'll see if that ages like shit or ages like wine. But moving on now to the locks of the card. Which of the picks am I the most confident in to hit for this card? So I got to put Zhang Minyang in there. I mean, it's a massive favorite, and I think for good reason. I'm not liking the state of Anthony Smith right now, so I'm putting Zhang Minyang in there. I'll put Aliskerov in there as well. I feel like that's pretty fair. Like, I know I'm just kind of going with the big favorites here, but I feel like they're the big favorites for good reason. And I'm also going to put, I mean, speaking of big favorites, I'm going to put Damone Blackshear in there. I feel like out of all three of these, he technically might be the riskiest here, but I still think there's just kind of a big gap in his fight, and I think he's going to go out there and put on a great performance. And I know he's still dealing with kind of just unranked guys, but Blackshear's dangerous as fuck, man. I can really see him going out there, and he's just kind of proving himself as one of the better unranked bantamweight prospects right now, man, or just one of the best unranked bantamweights that we're kind of getting right now. So I really do think Blackshear's going to go out there and keep the win streak going. So I think that Blackshear, Zhang Minyang, and Ikram Aliskerov are going to be my 3 locks of the card. And moving on now to the wild card of the card. It's somebody who kind of being very, very overlooked, or is just someone who could really shake up the rankings, or really just kind of shake up their division, or someone just in general that's being pretty slept on. And so that is what I define as the wild card of the card. And I'm going to give it to Anthony Smith, okay? It's kind of hard to pick one for this card here, but honestly, man, like me included, I'm sleeping on Smith, and a bunch of people are. And he just, I don't see this being one of those vibes where it is an upset, but just like you don't know with Smith, man. And if there really is anybody that could just go out there and throw the script out the window or whatever, it's going to be Anthony Smith. So I could see him being the wild card of the card here and kind of fucking shit up. So moving on, man, to the card rating. What am I going to give this from 1 to 10 here, man? I'm going to give this a 6.5, which is good. All right, you got to consider, I view it as like a 10 is the absolute best it gets, a 5 is average, and a 1 is the absolute worst it gets. So I think the 6.5 is pretty good. It's a pretty good fight night. It's a good main event. It's a good main card. And there's kind of some hidden gems of prelims in there. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, it's a good card. I like that there's depth to it. I like that hopefully we don't get a lot of pullouts because there's name value here. There's really intriguing matchups. And I think we could see a lot of finishes. And again, it's a great main event. So I'm going to give it a 6.5 out of 10, man. I'm pretty happy with it. I'm glad that the UFC is really taking seriously crowded fight nights again. I appreciate that. So yeah, that's going to be it for this video, man. Thank you guys so very much for making it this far. Really, really appreciate y'all a lot for that, man. If you guys can help me get to 1,000 subscribers, it'd mean the world. But regardless, thank you guys so very much for making it this far in the video. Appreciate y'all a lot. Let me know your picks in the comments below. Let me know your opinions in the comments below. Let me hear all of it. We're just here to talk MMA. Would love to hear y'all. So appreciate y'all so very much. Thanks for making it this far in the video. Enjoy watching the fights this weekend, man. Enjoy your joint, enjoy your drinks, or whatever the hell. So enjoy it with the fellas. Enjoy it by yourself. Who the hell cares? You know what I mean? So just enjoy the fights, man. All the smoke here. Appreciate y'all. I'll see you guys next time.